Internet. The cases involve states. The Supreme Court hearing arguments today in two landmark cases. They are expected to have a major impact on free speech and the Internet. The cases involve states' power to hold social media platforms liable for political censorship and focus on Florida and Texas laws, which are aimed at addressing content moderation and alleged bias against conservatives. NetChoice, a tech industry group, is the lead plaintiff in both cases, challenging the Florida and Texas law. NetChoice argues that the law infringes on the platform's own First Amendment rights. Joining me right now is NetChoice Vice President and General Counsel and Professor of Internet Law at George Mason University's Scalia Law School, Carl Szabo. Carl, thanks very much for being here. Break down both of these cases and talk about the impact that the Supreme Court decisions will have.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. What we are literally seeing is what will determine who controls the Internet. Will it be the American people or will it be the government? And what we have seen out of the states of Florida and Texas is an effort to force websites and individuals to be subjected to content that they don't want to see, lawful but awful content, whether it's terrorist recruitment, child grooming, or other truly vile content. That is a violation of the First Amendment. It's compelled speech. And let's remember, conservatives are killing it on social media. We've seen the conversion of Twitter to X. We've seen Ted Cruz have more Twitter followers than the rest of the Democrats in the Senate Judiciary Committee. But handing power over to the government will be weaponized by the Biden administration, by the states of California and New York, to censor conservatives. So the last thing we want to do is let the government control the Internet, and that's why NetChoice is fighting to make sure the First Amendment and the American people control the Internet, not the government.
But they're already controlling it, Carl. We know what happened during the COVID pandemic when government was working with Twitter and other social media companies to censor information. And we know that during the Russia collusion lie, same thing. They worked with Twitter and social media to stomp out anybody who said it was not true, the Russia collusion story. And during COVID, we weren't allowed to know half the stuff we know now about the vaccines. Why? Because the government had 1,000 people in different agencies working with Twitter to censor Americans' information. So they're doing it now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that upsets us. That's why at NetChoice we're supporting things like Chairman Jordan's Protecting Free Speech from Government Interference Act, which would make crystal clear that's illegal. And most importantly, if NetChoice loses this case, that means the government can control the Internet, and the Biden administration will further pressure, harass, and jawbone social media platforms into carrying the content that Biden wants, not what the American people want. So that's why, whether left, right, or center, we must force, protect, and defend the First Amendment from government takeover. So while it may be Republicans in Texas and Florida that we like, it's Democrats in California, New York, and the White House that we don't like. So we need to make sure that these businesses are protected from any government control.
So the Journal is out with an op-ed this morning called Big Tech Censorship Goes to the Supreme Court. The editorial board writes this: the overriding problems is that extending common carrier regulation to social media platforms invites more government control of speech. So do Florida and Texas want Federal Trade Commission Chair Lina Khan dictating what can and can't be said online? Carl, I think this is the point you're making.
Yeah, exactly right. Ultimately, the government will determine what content is appropriate. And that's the type of stuff you see in China, not in the free states of the United States of America. And so we need to make sure that it is private businesses. And the good news is the market is solving the problem. Twitter switched to X. Rumble, Truth Social have come online as alternatives for conservative speech. And people are voting with their feet. Much like how people are moving from California to Florida, conservatives are moving from Facebook to Rumble to Truth Social.
Yeah, it's a great point that you make. At least we've got more options today. Carl will be watching these cases. Thank you.
Thank you.